Hi to everyone. So today I'm here with David Cabezas. He is the founder of Mindful Learning. And he has an incredible method, very, very interesting. I'm always looking for somebody that has this vision of integral communication. And I think he is one of them for sure. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Tell us a little bit, David, about you, your story, because you come from forestry. And you're doing this now that is very different. So the first thing I would love to know, and I think or the people listening, about your story with your English communication skills.
Okay, first, thank you for having me. And secondly, well, my story is a bit peculiar because I started studying forestry, as you said, and I started working as a forestry engineer at the beginning, and I climbed the ladder, so I became like the CEO or manager of a company. And then when I got there, I realized that I wasn't really happy with this kind of role, that I needed something else because it was really related to marketing, like politics and these kind of things, a lot related to money too. And I just quit. So it was like a tough decision because I was earning not a lot of money, but probably more money than I'm earning right now. And then I traveled a lot. I was volunteering, and I ended up in UK. And I mean, the idea was great, like traveling, and I thought that I may find a job related to forestry, but I realized that if I wanted to thrive, I should learn proper English. In fact, my first job was related to, I worked as a sandwich man. So it was like a big change, like moving from being the manager of a company to become a sandwich man. And I think that back then was the moment that I found, my motivation. And it was the motivation that helped me to improve my English. I was 33 years old, so I was pretty old if you compare with, most of the English teachers that we have. And I didn't like English when I was young at school, university, and so on. So for me, it was a real challenge. And I think that this kind of experience is the experience that I try to use in my classes and to apply and use in my lessons too.
Yes, this last part, I think it's so interesting because it's like going yourself through the journey and finding the confidence as a communicator in English. And what you said about that you felt English was very boring at school is exactly it was my experience too. And here going a little bit into what are your takeaways from that journey? Like, what would you say the younger version of you going back of, okay, don't do this, focus on this other thing, when you were like struggling with English?
Well, that is a tricky question because,
yeah.
I wouldn't say too many advices because all the mistakes that I made took me from there to here. So basically, like I regret a lot of things, but probably these kind of things were like really important lessons. So I really like to learn from my mistakes. And everybody says that is like kind of a slogan, but nobody wants to make mistakes at the end of the day. So basically, we have to face it. The mistakes are the only way of learning, unfortunately, sometimes. So I would tell you said my younger version or a new version of myself.
Yeah, the person you were, like, for example, approaching the way to improve your skills with English, because many times, for example, for me, when I was in translation, nobody was telling me, okay, Anna, create an immersion, explore the language itself and the communication aspect of it. It was more like grammar and exercises, like, yeah. I don't know, how do you find it when you were like, okay, now I'm in the UK, I have to work, I need these skills, and I don't feel that I'm properly communicating myself, even I'm studying a lot and I'm memorizing all this vocabulary, and there was like maybe something there that you didn't feel that you're making the progress?
Yeah, probably, try to find a motivation. I think that the motivation is key. So I usually, you need to find your inner motivation. A lot of people talk about, I motivate my clients, I motivate my students, but I don't think that you can do so. You need to find your inner motivation. And probably like, like trying to learn a second language by things that you are interested in can be really helpful. Like, for example, I was really into music and into reading when I was a teenager. And also I liked traveling. So perhaps with this kind of approach, I would have liked to improve my English, but it didn't happen. To be honest, I used to do this kind of activities that you mentioned, like ABCD, and grammar and vocabulary activities that sometimes you don't even see what is the whole picture, what is the sense of doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And there is something that you said about your method, your very unique style of communication, of the very unique way that you help your students, your clients, that you said only when you own your personal way of expression and dare to show your personality, you're going to be able to be fully present, fulfill your maximum potential, inspire others, and finally stop worrying about the language to focus on what you actually want to say. I think this is very, very interesting. So I would like to kind of breaking it down with you a little bit. What do you mean with that?
Well, basically, I mean that sometimes it's like we forget that English is a tool to communicate. So also we have to give importance to the message. We have to work with our message, what we want to say, who we are is really important. So trying to be aware of ourselves is also a part of the process. So if you know yourself, you are more likely to express yourself in a second language. So you can find your English version of yourself. And related to that, I think that it's really important what you mentioned about connection and presence, because I mean, as neuroscience has shown recently, I mean, we need to be present in order to have like a proper learning process. And I think that you can only be present if you are connected with the person that you are in front of you. So we are looking at each other's eyes right now. So it means that we are trying to connect, or we are connecting. That's why we are learning, we are communicating. So it's the small things that also take part in the communication. So English is a tool. So you have to use it properly. And it's great that you want to use this tool, and it's a fantastic tool to communicate. It opens you a lot of doors. But before you use the tool, you need to also polish your message, what you want to use it for. Really important too, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, for me, the way I find it many times is like there is only the energy put in one dimension of the skill, that is language. But then the people that we are more invested in communication as a whole, communication is so many things, isn't it? It's like the way you listen to someone. It's very important.
Yeah, very important. Yeah.
We're saying. So you said that it's mindful learning, this approach, and mindfulness is huge, probably in the way you approach lessons or you approach your students, your clients. So I want to know more about that. What is mindfulness and how it can help us if we apply this to communication and to the needs of people that struggle with the second language, with English?
Yeah, I mean, I don't use mindfulness as such in my classes. We don't practice meditation before starting our lessons or something similar to this. But the idea of mindfulness is, as we said before, it has like two kind of concepts. One is presence, another one is connection, and probably there is a third one that is about awareness. So probably we talked before about presence and connection, and awareness is really important too, because it can help you to identify your strengths, the areas that you need to work, and also related to this thing that is called metacognition, if I'm not wrong, that is that thing that for me is really important in the learning process, that is you are able to measure or to realize about your progress, because sometimes it's like, I want to learn English, but how do you measure that? And I think that is very important, try to measure that. I think that is very effective for the clients and the students, and it's very important that they are aware of their progress, because sometimes it can be frustrating because it's like an endless process. So they need to be able to recognize where are they at any given time. And I think that mindfulness, I mean, this kind of mindful approach can help you to be aware of that. And then also you can focus better on the things that you need to improve, your strengths, the areas that you need to practice, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great advice. Totally. I find that mindfulness, that is kind of being very present and like it's coming back to the body, isn't it? Also, like how things feel. So how do you kind of come across that in your own personal journey? So now going a little bit more into your personal journey, because you have a fascinating change there, like a fascinating kind of event happening when you were 33, that you make that important decision. And I guess that maybe like coming into this kind of new things. So I would like to know how mindfulness found your, like, how did you were interested in this kind of topics?
Yes, as we said before, sometimes we need to suffer to change and to learn. Unfortunately, I always ask the same question. I always wonder, cannot we evolve without suffering? I don't know. It seems that no, if you want to have real changes in your life. So in my case, I had an injury. So I used to practice sport. I still do it, but I had an injury and I couldn't play tennis, football, and so on, the activities that I used to practice. So then I decided to, I had to slow down. As you said, the body stopped me from doing other things. And I started little by little reading books related to this kind of idea. And step by step, I started to practice mindfulness in a very anarchic way. I don't follow any kind of methodology. I like to try. I'm not really good with routines when it comes to mindfulness because I like it. So I do when I feel like if I feel like doing mindfulness, I do it. It's not like something, it's not like going to the gym. It's like I want to do it because I feel like it's good for me. So I don't need to stick to a routine in this sense.
Yeah, it's like an internal motivation, not that you were
Yeah.
saying before. I also prefer it like that in a way, like it's not in your to-do list, but it's actually something that you feel like, okay, now I'm feeling like I want to practice this, or I want to, in my case, I love journaling, or like I love, sort of things, but it's not like I have to do it because then it becomes kind of the opposite. It becomes a task again, or you will consider yourself more in the coaching aspect of the skill than the teaching aspect of both, maybe. So I'm gonna ask you a little bit about that, about the foundation of how you coach your clients, your students, and that you tell us about any success story of any of them that were struggling so much. What areas do they struggle, and what do you think are aspects that really help them from your way of coaching them?
Okay. Related to coaching, it's like there are a lot of ideas or ways of teaching that you use and you don't even know that they have a name, such as emergent language or dogma or coaching. So I think that I had this coaching approach before became a certified coach. I took a fantastic course with Rachel Failing about neuro-language coaching, and then I became an accredited coach. And I think that the main insights of coaching could be that it's like you change this traditional approach that you are the person who knows everything and you just tell people what to do. And here you are listening. Again, we come back to mindfulness. It's like listening to people, what they have to say. At the end of the day, it's their journey. So you go with them. It's a win-win situation. They want to learn English. You want they to learn English. So it's a really client-centered approach. And I think that it's really cool. Like you co-create with them, like the activities and also a roadmap about where they want to go and what they want to get. And regarding the success stories, probably if I can find a pattern, could be about confidence. It's like probably it's like all the clients, I work mainly with Spanish professionals that need English to communicate at work or because they want to communicate or improve in their personal level. So most of them want to speak English perfect. So I want the perfect English, and it's fine. Of course, I want also the perfect. But I tell them, in the meantime, we have to communicate. You have to show up in the meeting and try to talk about IT or whatever it is. And this kind of philosophy, I think that is really effective for them because, it helps them to live with the mistakes as well, to be aware that it's a process, but we can still do it even though we are not doing it as good as we want. And also, I think that I have helped them a lot with the confidence, by giving them confidence to deal with mistakes. And even though you make mistakes, you can just get your message across. I said before, English is a tool, but you have a fantastic message. Let's work with it and make the most of your skills, the skills that you have at this moment, and let's work how we can improve the rest of the skills that you want to improve in the future.
Yeah, confidence is so important. It's like the one skill, like maybe courage and confidence. From there, you can grow all of the rest. And it's true that my contention or my hypothesis is that the school has killed that confidence in many professionals, and they think that they need academic English when they actually need communication skills. So it's like they come with imposter syndrome that is huge.
Totally.
It's
Yes, and limiting beliefs. Now that you mentioned that, last week a student told me that he was very happy with the sessions because there was a day that I think that he went to a restaurant and he met a lady and they were talking in English, like a random talk, and she congratulated him about his English. And he told me that when he was at school, or I don't know if it was school or high school, the teacher told him that he was used at English, that he would never, he would never learn. And this is the kind of things. And now he was over the moon because what is the problem? The problem is not that he said that. The problem is that he believed. Yeah. My client believed that. And that is the problem that we have. We have believed many things that our parents, our society, our friends have told us that may not be true. So we are here to try to question that.
Exactly, the subconscious programming. Yes, it's like a very coaching terminology here, but for those listening to you, the people that we work in coaching, we address a lot the subconscious. That is a lot to do with how we acquire language. And that's what, I don't know what is your approach on vocabulary and grammar. I would really like to know, because I also see that you have mentioned that English is in you. I believe the same. So I would like to ask you about that to go into the next thing I want to ask you.
Well, basically, we use a hands-on approach. We learn by doing. So if they want to communicate because they need at work, we start just doing what they have to do in their day-to-day meetings, networkings, or whatever. And then you have this emergent language that come up. So basically, we work with this kind of emergent language, grammar, I mean, everything that they need in order to communicate, and not the other way around, that is the traditional system. So basically, it's funny because at the beginning, they tell me, most of them tell me, I don't want to practice grammar, or I'm not really concerned about vocabulary. But at the end of the day, they realized the grammar that they need to communicate. Again, grammar is part of the structure. Vocabulary is also part of the communication. So it's not like we focus on anything per se, but we just address the communication, and then all the needs that they have arises in the conversation, and we work with them. And rather than learning like a huge variety of vocabulary, we start with what we call the core of is their core, that is a personal vocabulary that they need to communicate. And little by little, we keep expanding this vocabulary. But basically, you need to be really comfortable with this core vocabulary because it's your personality. Once you master it, you can move to the next stage. And little by little, you are increasing your vocabulary. But if you learn a word that is not related to your life, how on earth are you going to remember it? I mean, I always tell my students that it's like words have two lives. You have to use twice. It's like you have to read it, you have to write it. You have to listen to it, you have to use it. So it's like something that you have to use, to manage. It's not like something static that you have to live there and you forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the integration. It's only through that integration that you can speak naturally. If not, it's the translation in your head that people say. It's, because of that process, we need to acquire the vocabulary in that subconscious way, in that gradual way, as you say. That's the beauty of neuroscience, isn't it? That now we have neuroscience to back it up. So yeah, I fascinate with that because it's like we were doing it upside down. And many people maybe are still thinking, oh, but I'm not making progress. But it's because the method maybe that you're applying is not the one that is brain friendly. So I hope they are listening to us and to you, so that they can get that. Okay, so coming to, again, the school system, I'm very interested to know this because I also have clients that have their kids, and they ask me about this, like they want to create an environment at home, or even when they are thinking of taking their kids to a school and they are like thinking of, okay, maybe it should be a bilingual school or not, or, they are all kind of having this incredible struggle about what should I do? So I wanted to ask you, because I know that you also have in your company a section for kids. So I want to ask you about that, about how to start introducing the skill to kids and what you will tell a parent as advice or anything that comes of, okay, I think this will be great if you want to help the kid with this skill, anything that you find useful for them.
Yeah. There is an educator, a Spanish educator, that is called Marisa Moya, and she says that we should speak the language of children if we want to communicate with them.
I love that.
So, and what is the language of children? Is games. It's playing with them. I mean, they need to have fun. I mean, at the end of the day. So if you want to promote English with your kids, make sure that you speak their language. You play with them in English. You do activities with them in English, activities that they enjoy. So I think that this is the best way, in my opinion. I'm not really keen on television for kids. That's why I prefer like having quality time with them. Again, we come back to the presence, be present with them, just be there, quality time, and they will learn because the brain is connected. And when the brain is connected, it's amazing the way that it learns.
Yes, and what do you think about, if you want to share with us, the bilingual systems in schools, the way that is maybe forced into many kids, or the way it's organized in schools and in teachers? What do you think about that, in your opinion?
I'm not an expert in the educational system because I don't know how they organize it in the schools. But it seems that sometimes, as you said, they force the English into higher levels all of a sudden. It's like you are in year 7 and you are studying history in Spanish, and the year after you have a teacher who is teaching you history in English. At the end of the day, you don't learn either of them. So I think that it's important to as I said before, like you need a roadmap, and you need to plan things carefully. And I think that is very important to organize these kind of things, train the teachers, give them tools, and also show them how children learn. It's like we have too much focus on ourselves, our skills, our knowledge, our titles, and we forget about the kids, about the clients, about the students. And at the end of the day, is what is the best way to help them learning something. So, for example, I always have in my class one question that is, how can I help Paco to improve his English? Because otherwise I may lose the focus about it. And it's not about me, it's about him, or about her, about any other person.
Yes, like in this series, New Amsterdam, you know, the series that is the doctor is always saying, how can I help? How can I help? And
yeah,
it's
exactly.
like thinking is always to them and not to, yes, it's true. Sometimes we are myopic. It's like we're not listening to the kids, or the way they, I thought that way, for example, with books, like with the reading habit. Whenever I'm with clients and it's like they don't have any reading habit, I didn't used to have a reading habit myself in English. Also because many of the books that were close to me, I was not as interested, maybe. But the moment I started to research and find books that I was actually interested, mostly in my case are nonfiction, books that talk about things in my life I want to improve, that, I'm very like, I need to use this. So I love novels, but I normally don't read novels. So for me, it's like, wow, accessing to all of this wisdom and accessing to all of these things, and do it in another language as well as people. It's like you're following your purpose more, you're following what you actually like and you are interested. And I don't remember they taught me that in school, like follow books that you're actually interested. It was like, this is the list of books, read this, and I was not interested. And then I thought, I remember having the belief reading is boring. And then and now I read quite, a little bit. I kind of have this reading habit, because it helps me, it improves my life, but because the books that I'm choosing to read are actually interesting to me. I don't know if you relate with this.
Totally. It has always struck me that at the school, they force people to read books. Such a pleasure. It's like, nobody forces you to watch Netflix. If you force somebody to read a book, it's because you don't like reading. Because if you liked reading, you wouldn't tell them, you have to do that. No, you don't have to force anybody to read. Reading is a pleasure. Reading is a pleasure. So, you have to show them the beauty of reading. How do you do that? I don't know. Enjoy reading yourself first, and then you can share your experiences about reading. What do you like? What did you enjoy about this book? What is it about? And I think that most I mean, not most teachers, but some teachers don't really like reading. They don't like reading, so they cannot just motivate or, I mean, promote or encourage students to read in their classes. And I think that is a problem. And for me, I noticed that. And when I found out the books that I really liked, it was like turning point in my life. And also for learning a second language is one of my main motivation. When I read, like, I don't know, Alan Watts in English, original version, it's like wonderful, like amazing.
Yeah, the meditations. And then you can also, if you like Alan Watts, like listen to interviews of him that
Totally. Well, podcast is such a good tool as well for learning English.
Same for me. For me, I think what keeps my English alive is that I have this spiritual I love psychology and spirituality, but I love also the bridge between science and spirituality and psychology. Like in Spain, there is some things, but not as much as coming from the States. So for me,
totally.
This detective, this kind of curiosity. And asking you about that, because if people are listening or watching us, I hope this is the motivation they are looking for to start reading. What would you recommend as a great book that is interesting and relevant for our listeners, for if they are at an intermediate level, that you would recommend because you liked it?
But related to any topic or?
A topic you like.
Okay.
What you like.
Well, when people ask me to give them an advice about a book, I always ask them a question. What do you like? What do you read?
Exactly.
Because it's like my students tell me, okay, tell me a book. It's like, okay, tell me a series, some series that I can watch. It's like, well, what do you usually watch? What is your, the things that you like?
Has this personal aspect to it. And then there are also books and series that is like most people like. But it's true that it's very difficult sometimes that there is something that everybody likes. That's why it's to be personalized. But that's why I would like to know about your interest, because maybe somebody listening, find it interesting. And yes, like ideas that you would like to recommend yourself.
Yes, my interests have changed a lot throughout the years. So I started with South American writers such as Cortázar and Bolaño, that for me were like a dramatic change in my perspective in my life. And now, as you said, I'm more keen on spirituality. And probably the bridge between this kind of like a traditional novel and more like a essay, like a philosophy, this kind of things.
Non-fiction. Yeah, the non-fiction. Yes.
Has been Mark Manson. I read a book that it was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And it was kind of psychology and self-development. And it was like, it opened a door through this world. And then I started with, as I said, Alan Watts, Balsekar, Krishnamurti. I have tried totally different people that I like, but probably it depends on your level. I would recommend you one book or another.
Yeah. Okay. The subtle art of not giving a fuck, I think it's great for intermediate. And it's
I think so.
It's about stoicism.
Yes, it's related to that. Yes, I have recommended to my students, and also I have used some YouTube videos of this guy in my classes.
What is the main idea of the book? Like, what is it about?
Well, I think that the main idea is like be familiar with your thoughts and realizing that you are not your thoughts. So it's like sometimes we identify too much with our thoughts and we believe that we are our thoughts. And sometimes the problem is not what happens, it's what we tell ourselves about what happened. So it's like it delves into this kind of inner critic, an inner story that sometimes we create about what happened in our lives, all the events that happens in our lives. And we tend to be really negative sometimes, and it applies to English, because sometimes this kind of inner critic is telling you, you are not doing well, and it stops you from flowing. And it happens to me. So it's like when you are communicating, you have two options: focusing on your mistakes or focusing on your message. And for me, it's a great tool, because, for example, today I have realized that I have made some mistakes, but still I'm focusing on my message. That for me is more important. It's about my project.
Exactly. Communication is all about purpose. It's all about your audience. It's all about how can I communicate in a way people understand me and I'm clear and that I get my point across. And then you have different intentions. If I want to negotiate, if I want to be persuasive, and it's this beautiful skill that, I learned about communication skills actually much later, being in university studying communication. It's crazy, but it's true, and it's all about the people listening to you. So it's exactly what you said. So coming to the idea of purpose, that's also another thing I wanted to ask you, because your story is one of the type of stories I really like, because of that turning point in your life where everything changed for you. So you were working at a company, doing very well on societal standards, no? And then there was an inner motivation for you to change that. So what I want to ask you here is, what is purpose for you, and how do you feel that relates to what you're doing now and the way you're giving back to people?
Wow, that's a difficult question. Well, purpose, I don't know. Probably it's about coherence.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to find a coherence between what I think and what I do, and it's so difficult. And then when I was a manager at a company, I didn't feel coherent. Okay. And I don't feel coherent all the time, but now I feel that what I feel, my values are more aligned with what I do at the moment, like trying to help people to become more confident in a second language than before. So probably it's a purpose that I have. And related to that and books, I don't know if you have read the book, The Man Searching for a Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
That is an amazing book. Yeah.
And it's amazing the way that, yes, he finds purpose in the suffering, in the concentration camps. And it saved him. When he found the purpose, it saved him from the pain of being there. And I think that this kind of question that you have asked is so interesting, because you need a purpose for everything that you do. For example, I use this kind of tool sometimes because I feel like, okay, today I have to work a lot. I'm not really, and sometimes I think, okay, this is for my family, or it's for my students, and then it changes because you have a purpose, and then it's okay, let's do it. But sometimes you don't reflect about what is the aim of what you do. It's like you do, and you get bored, and you don't have any passion about it. So I think that purpose gives you passion, and it makes everything more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, when you make that reference, I don't think there is any better reference to that than Viktor Frankl. I also really like A New Earth. I don't know if you have read it. Totally recommend you. It's all about purpose, but it talks more about emotions and the things that make you feel alive, that you should follow them.
All right.
I make a very simple summary. It's much more complicated, but it's kind of a summary.
I imagine.
And I really like that, I find our emotions are a guidance system. So whenever something that you're doing, you find yourself being more alive doing it. Totally. I really like it as a guidance system. Like, keep doing that, going in that way. And what you say about, I remember in that Man Search for Meaning, there is a quote that I really like, that I use, I apply it a lot also whenever I'm helping people with this skill. That is, between stimulus and response, there is a gap. And in that gap, there is kind of freedom. It's not literal. I'm just...
No. Yeah. It's true.
I love that quote, because it's about that, like if you find yourself making mistakes, you can choose how you perceive that, as a failure, or, it's the way of growing into the best version of me. So
totally. So useful for this quote is so useful for upbringing as well, because sometimes with kids, we tend to react instead of respond. So sometimes you have to step back, and then take time before you do anything, because your first reaction probably is by condition, by your conditioning. So you tend to react in a way that is your inner child with reacting instead of you. So upbringing for me has been like a great change in my perspective towards education as well.
Yeah, I mean, nothing like being a parent. It's like
No,
a master for everything, isn't it? Like incredible.
totally.
Music a great like a great way to help people with pronunciation, for instance, and with immersion in the language, with having fun with it. And that's something you told before, that you also like music. So what song or songs you would like to recommend people for listening in English with the lyrics that are actually telling a story or that are good, that you would like for people to listen to?
I would recommend them to listen to a variety of music. You can learn about the variety of English. So if you listen to reggae music, you may familiar with like a Jamaican accent, then you can find out a lot of slang vocabulary from hip hop culture. So, I mean, it's a great source of vocabulary and pronunciation, as you said. So I think that I would recommend them to listen to a variety of music, English, American, traditional. I think that is great. And also it opens your minds.
Yeah, hip hop is it's an incredible challenge for
Totally.
connected speech. It's like you want to improve your speech, go for hip hop, because that's kind of the if it was a video game, it's like the next level. It's like the
totally. Yes.
like I really like Jay-Z, and there is, for example, the song of Alicia Keys with Jay-Z, that's New York. And when you listen to the song only Alicia Keys, it's easy. But when you add Jay-Z, it's crazy. And also because there are a lot of reference to New York. So it's not only the language, it's the culture, because you don't understand the references about New York culture if you're not a New Yorker or you are immersing in their culture.
And that's the beauty of a language. I didn't realize how many idioms we have in Spain until I went to UK. And then when I came back, I started to notice how many idioms we use in our day-to-day language. And not just idioms, but references to our culture, like things that are related to the news, local news. So that's why it's really complex to acquire a language properly, but it's a wonderful challenge.
Where in the UK were you staying?
In London, in Hackney.
Hey, that's amazing in London. And like, what about like their accent, or like because it's so big, that city, that probably there are like different even accents in the city. I don't know if you can tell us a little bit about your impressions living there.
Well, as I told you at the beginning, for me, it was a total challenge, because the first thing that I learned about English was about body language. Because I was with people and I was looking at them and I thought, okay, this guy's telling me something funny or not. Yeah. So I was trying to decipher what they meant. So I didn't notice any accent. But then, of course, the variety of accents there it's amazing. I remember that I played football in Regent's Park every Sunday. 11 aside, 22 people, and I think that we were 19 nationalities.
Wow, that should be
Everybody speaking in English. That's why I realized that, I mean, there is no such a thing as a perfect English, because we were communicating. I mean, if you are thinking, how can I say that properly? Then you are not saying it. Just say it. Probably it's not properly, but it's what you say. It's you. It's you with your mistakes and your flaws. And I realized about it back then. And for me, it was incredible. 18 or 19 nationalities playing together, and we communicated with different accents.
That's amazing.
So I think that is the beauty of English, and probably the beauty of other languages, but probably English has more variety than other languages.
Yeah, it has become this lingua franca. So it's like, that, like, we like it or not, it's kind of the way we can communicate internationally with everybody. And then
the new Esperanto.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I mean, it's for me, I see like that, but it's also like, okay, adapting, or like kind of having a strategies of active listening for the different accents and for the different situations you're gonna find yourself in, like what you said about being in a team, playing with people from all over the world with all their different accents. That is quite a challenge too for
totally. But I mean, I have a friend from Australia, and he tells me that he has problems understanding Scottish people. So I mean, it happens to us. Sometimes I have problems with people from Latin America. I have a lot of friends here, and they have problems understanding me. It's like, you understand them, but it takes a while. You need to get used to it. You get used to the rhythm, as you said. So you need to warm up, and that is wonderful. Again, it's a great challenge.
It's like developing, I always say that, like the resilience to listen, even if you don't get everything, because it gets that, that's what happens with me with the Scottish accent or Irish accent. In this case, now when I'm watching a series and I am tempted to turn on the subtitles because it's like, oh my God, I'm not understanding what they are saying. But I wait and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna listen. I can follow this, and then it gets easier and easier. Your ears adjust, and then you understand better. So it's like exactly that. It's like be okay with uncomfort of not understanding everything, and that's what happens in real life. So it's totally true.
Yes, and you also develop a system, and you start understanding the keywords. So always you can work with this kind of systematization of the process, and you understand keywords, and then you can communicate even though you understand everything. Exactly. So I mean, because I struggled with that when I was in UK, I developed my own system to communicate, and then I try to show my students how they can apply in their day-to-day. But listening is an art, and it's so difficult to listen properly. And I think that in a second language, one of the problems that we have is since we are not confident in what we want to say next, while people are talking, sometimes we are planning our answer. It would be really common in podcast interviews. Like you are asking me something and I'm thinking, okay, how I'm going to construct that? And at the end of the day, it's about, as Alan Watt says, wu wei, let it be. Just let it be. Go with the flow because you cannot control it. Okay, you will make mistakes probably. Doesn't matter. But if you don't listen to your question, it will be worse because you will lose your message because you don't relate to the person.
Exactly. It's like what you said. Like if I'm thinking about what I want to say next instead of listening to you, then I'm not really going to answer your question. I'm not really going to, but what I was saying, because I was thinking something else, or I was like, oh my God, the words are not going to come. Or, yes, it's like all this mental energy stopping you to actually then communicate properly. Yeah, it's our monkey mind doing their things.
Totally.
Another thing I also wanted to ask you is about, because we are bilingual speakers, we are Spanish native speakers, helping professionals with their English, mainly from Spain, but also from other places. So I'm interested in what is your opinion about us as non-native speakers? What do you think are our strengths that, not better, not worse, but because we have going that journey ourselves? What do you think, in your opinion, as you are a coach, being Spanish native speaker, what are your strengths helping others to communicate in English with confidence?
It's a great question. And I am a native and non-native speaker, teacher at the same time, because I teach some Spanish as well. I have just a couple of students that I used to have, and I have had them for a long time. We have fun together. So I can compare. And I sometimes like, even though Spanish is my native language, I feel more useful in English than in Spanish because I can relate to them. So important. And obviously my knowledge of Spanish is wider than English. I feel more comfortable speaking Spanish. But even though I feel that I am more useful in English than in Spanish. And it's like kind of a paradox. And I think that is what we can bring to this kind of learning process. But I believe that we are complementary. I think that native, non-native, it depends on the client again. What does he need? So probably there is a perfect coach or teacher for every client. So I am not the perfect coach for everybody. And I don't want to be, because I should change my personality. Yeah. Or I may need to be born in America, and I'm not. But probably because I wasn't born in America, I can help other kind of people that a native speaker wouldn't help. So that is the good way about it. There is room for everybody. The more you personalize it, the better, because you can find your client, and it's great. There is a client there that is looking for you, for sure.
Exactly. It's so true. It's like we are all having, it's like kind of a recipe, a cooking recipe. And it's like we all have these special ingredients. And it's like, okay, you have this type of cuisine and then this other type of cuisine. And they are all great. But maybe you
totally
never go to a Mexican. So then you should go to the Mexican food. Or,
totally.
And it's
totally agree.
I totally see it the same way,
and it's something great about this new trend in marketing. Before I'm older than you, and before it was about I don't want to share anything with my competence. And now there is this trend that we are doing here of abundance, of sharing knowledge, because we believe that there is room for everybody. We truly believe. It's not that we say. It's like and because we believe that, you give me room to speak, I give you room to speak, and we share, because probably we can create something together or not. But this is the philosophy, and I really like, because I didn't like marketing before, and now I have started just 10 days ago with marketing, and I like it. I mean, there are some things that I don't like it, but this kind of sharing information with people and trying to help each other, I love it.
Yes, marketing is huge. It's like another kind of rabbit hole that we can go through. Like, yes, it's kind of, I also really like the networking aspect of it and learning from other professionals like you, because it's like what you said. It's like there are things that I don't see in that way because this is my brain. So it's like through other people, you can find other ways or perspectives, and you can always improve and find interesting things about that. And for me, for example, I don't see that as competence either. I see it more as we are this movement that we want change, and we are trying to innovate and like trying to share something that help people in a new way, creating this here over here. Hello.
Totally. And sometimes we lack of this feedback from professionals like us. It's like it's very isolated job, and we lack of this. And I have recently joined a course with Sean Hutchman, that is from Ethos English. It's a fantastic podcast, and he has like Ethos Lab, and we meet every 2 weeks. I recommend you. I mean, and it's wonderful because we are different teachers, coaches from different nationalities. All of us are not native, but him. And it's great because we share experiences, we help each other, and we try to improve our English skills as well. And it's wonderful. I have learned a lot. I keep learning a lot.
Yeah.
So it's about sharing as well and learning from others.
Yeah, that's kind of the best thing.
Yeah.
We can all share and we can all learn from each other in different ways. And
Totally.
yeah, I also really like when I meet people from Spain, like you're living in Malaga now, so people can actually find you. If they are in Malaga, you can find them there. And I also really like that because, people from, I think, all over the world, that's the great thing about, doing communication and coaching on communication skills like this, that we can network internationally and find professionals from all over the world and learn from them. And it's kind of the best. So, well, David, I don't know if there is anything you want to add or anything that you want to say, anything else that I haven't asked you. Okay, so
time flies when you are having fun, basically.
It's been great. Thanks a lot for coming, for being a guest here. I really enjoyed the conversation. And I'm going to share, for you listening, I'm going to share all the links for you to find David and what he's offering, and you can contact him and work with him in the description below. In the description of the podcast, everywhere I have a description to give you that information. So thanks a lot, David, again.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.